my name's Suzi Wilson. I'm talking to you here from Grantown Museum today. I'm the creator of the Adventures in Costume project, and I've been asked to talk for a little while about some of the costumes in the collection. The first dress I'm going to talk about is the Duchess silk satin dress, which is a replica of the dress that the character Claire wears in the TV show Outlander when she visits the court of Louis XV in France. You notice the dress is a little bit different because on the TV show, the dress the character Katrina Balfe wears is extremely low cut, and I made the dress slightly higher in the neckline as I thought most ladies wouldn't be comfortable wearing such a low cut dress. Also, the skirt is not as big as the skirt on the TV show. The panniers in the TV show are about 4 foot wide, and that just didn't seem entirely practical with our normal sized modern doorways, so I made the skirt smaller. It's about 6 meters around, whereas on the TV show the skirt is about 12 meters around. That's a lot of fabric. Otherwise, the dress has got a chiffon trim around the top and satin piping around here, satin bands across the front, and satin ties around the sleeves. Sleeves are interesting, only that it took me 3 attempts to make the sleeves. Every time I tried to make the sleeves, they wouldn't hang correctly. The fabric, the Duchess satin, is very stiff, and whenever I made the sleeves, they have a tendency to stick out. So it took me 3 attempts to make that, and eventually I used a 2-piece pattern to make the sleeves, and now I feel they're hanging correctly. I'll just show you the back of the dress. Back of the dress I've got little rouleau loops here, and then the ribbon threads through these using a bodkin to lace up the back of the dress. You'll notice that the skirt here has got cartridge pleats. These are looped pleats that go in and out like this, and then are hand sewn to the waistband. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this dress. This is the robe à la française, or the sack-back gown. It's a very popular style of dress in the 18th century, particularly in France, hence the French name. The dress comprises the robe that goes over the top, the petticoat underneath, the stomacher on the front, and then I'll turn around so you can see the back. The back of the dress has got a complicated arrangement of pleats here that then hangs from the shoulders and has a short train on the ground. The dress has also got a lot of trim on it. The hand trim here has been cut with scalloped pinking shears into scalloped shapes. So there was a lot of this to have to be cut and then applied by hand to the dress. A lot of these dresses are mostly hand sewn. The long seams in the skirt I sew on the machine, but anything that's visible or maybe visible then I sew by hand. So it takes me several weeks to make each dress. This dress is a replica of the wedding dress that Claire wears in Outlander when she gets married to Jamie. It's not exactly the same. The dress again in the show is really low cut, so I made the bodice higher because I just didn't think most people are comfortable with that. And the bodice is slightly different in that it's a little bigger, and the skirt and bodice that are grey on the TV show I believe are wool, but I made them in linen because I really love this colour of dove grey and I thought it went well with the white silk. The bodice and sleeves are made of white silk crepe de chine and white silk habotai, and the sleeves have got lots of shirring in them and then a frayed edge. The bodice has got lots of shirring in as well, and then is embroidered with silver thread. I took a bit of a shortcut here because embroidery isn't really my thing, so I put a lot of applique on of the grey linen, and then I embroidered silver on top of that, which is a bit of a shortcut, but I'm not really good at embroidery and it would have taken me ages to embroider all the leaves by hand. I did examine the photographs online of the Outlander dress, and the embroidery is just amazing, and I just couldn't have replicated that. I think they had a whole team of specialist embroiderers in Glasgow working on it, and it's just gorgeous, and I just couldn't do that. You see the dress is laced up the back, and I used metal rings here for the lacing for the ribbon, and you'll see that there's lots of hand stitching where you can see the boning has been put into the bodice. boning in the red dress is stitched into the interlining and into the lining, but not into the outer fabric, because it wasn't done like that on the dress on the TV show, and I wanted to replicate it as much as possible with the dress on the TV show. This dress here also has cartridge loops the same way as the skirt on the red dress does. There's piping around the top, which is white silk, and then it's also got silver thread hand stitched into the just below the piping. Okay, this dress is a robe à l'anglaise, which is similar to the robe à française or the sack back gown, only it's different in the back is pleated into the bodice and isn't flowing from the shoulders. Otherwise it's similar to the robe à la française on the front, in that it's got the stomacher and the same skirt and the same sleeves. Just I changed the trim. The trim is done in brown silk habotai. This is the back of the robe à l'anglaise. You see it's fitted into the body here, and then the pleats come out from the pointed V on the back of the bodice. The bodice has got boning in it, and underneath, I'll show you in a minute, the in addition to have the panniers, this has got the split rump in it, which, you know, in the 18th century your bum just couldn't look too big. You really like to pad out your rear end. This is a split rump underneath the robe à l'anglaise. Essentially it's just like two little pillows that go over your rear end just to make your bum look bigger. The robe à l'anglaise can also be worn like this. There's loops underneath and some ribbon, and you can pull it up to get this draped effect. Ladies could often, you know, change up the look of their gown by doing different things with it. Also, it was quite common for ladies to change the trim on their gown at the end of the season. So for instance, this trim here, it could be taken off and something different could be put on if they fancy to change. You know, they could add lace or different coloured ribbon or different coloured trim. They'd get their dressmaker in to change it up for them. So I like to call this the Clan Grant wedding dress. It's a copy of the Isabella McTavish Fraser wedding dress from the 18th century in the museum in Inverness. So I made ours up in Clan Grant tartan because we're from Granton and we're all about things Grant. So it's very similar to the one in the museum, only I put a laced up bodice instead of a pinned bodice. The point of making the bodice laced is so that the dress can fit multiple sizes. You could let the laces out or pull the laces in depending on the size of lady who's trying on the dress. The dress has got a navy linen petticoat underneath and has got a stole that fits over this shoulder. I'll just show you the back of the dress. This back panel of the dress here is one big rectangular piece of fabric that's been pleated in to fit the body. So I just had to try to match all the pleats in and fit it into the waist, and then the pleats flare out down to the ground. All of this is hand stitched in place to hold the pleats down, and then the bodice and the rest of the skirt is added after the back of the dress has been pleated. This costume is similar to the one that Claire wore from Outlander when she first arrives in Scotland, and she gets dressed when she arrives at the castle. So there's a knitted shawl on top and it's fastened with an annular brooch. And underneath we have a green velvet bodice, a candy striped stomacher, a brown wool skirt, and a little neckerchief just to keep your neck warm as we're in the Highlands and it is rather cold. I made this outfit as the Brianna outfit, similar to what she wore when she arrives in North America. There's a pleated navy linen skirt, there's a navy linen stomacher, a tartan laced up bodice, and a little knitted capelet, and underneath there's a frilled chemise. You also notice on this costume that the lady's got a rather large posterior. That's because there's a really large bum roll underneath. Again, your bum just couldn't look too big in the 18th century. Okay, I think of this as the early Victorian ball gown. There's a really big skirt. The fabric is Swiss knot cotton in a very pale pink. It's got trim with cotton lace and silk ribbon. The bodice has been ruffed. Underneath the skirt there's a really big crinoline. In Victorian times, ladies started wearing underwear. Prior to this, drawers or pantaloons were not really worn. But because the crinoline had a tendency to blow up in the wind or when a lady sat down, ladies started wearing underwear just so they could save their dignity. And they were often quite long, sometimes pantaloons, sometimes drawers, and sometimes they weren't connected around the gusset, so it was easy to go to the bathroom. You didn't actually have to take any clothing off. Okay, we've moved into the Regency period now, so it's all Jane Austen and Bridgerton and Pride and Prejudice, and dresses have moved from being very big and full to being very tall and slim. So the dresses usually fall from just below the bust in pretty much a straight column to the ground, and everything is much more loose and relaxed, and ladies went with much smaller corsets or no corsets at all, which was quite the revelation, I'm sure. This dress is made in a cotton lawn, and the coat is made in a navy linen, and it's lined in silk, and it's got velvet covered buttons. This is one of my favourites. Here we have another Regency dress. This is white cotton voile underneath, and then there's a cotton candy striped coat to go over the top, obviously a summer outfit. You'll notice now that ladies have little reticules, like a modern handbag. This is a new invention for the Regency period. Prior to that, ladies kept all their valuable bits and pieces in pockets. Pockets were a separate garment that were tied around the waist underneath their skirts that they could access through slits in the side of the skirts. So they were like their handbag of the day, only they were worn on the body and actually couldn't be seen from the outside. But when these tall, slim dresses came into fashion in the Regency period, pockets couldn't be worn underneath because you couldn't easily access them and it would spoil the line of the dress. So the reticule was invented, which is the forerunner of the modern handbag. This is the Jamie outfit from Outlander. This outfit comprises a great kilt. The great kilt is about 6 meters of tartan fabric, which is loosely pleated around the waist and then tied with a belt. The ends are then looped up into the back of the waistband to form these pleats on the back. Then over that we've got a linen waistcoat. There's a handmade 19th century man's shirt with handmade buttons, and then the velvet green coat with the brass buttons. Over that we've got the belt with the sporran and the baldric to hold your sword.